People in flats with dangerous cladding are paying a small fortune for marshals to patrol and alert people to any fire. But in one recent case, residents say they failed to do the job properly. Luckily, everyone got out, though a firefighter and one other person were taken to hospital. Well, last night, MPs and experts were urged to scrap the expensive system. Melanie Abbott has more on this. Mel, tell us a bit more about this fire to start with.
Yeah, it happened in May. It was in a 19-storey block of flats in East London, a block of flats which has got dangerous Grenfell-style cladding, and it broke out on the 8th floor. Now, as you say, everyone escaped, but around 40 people were injured. Yasmin Nashubandi, who lives in an adjacent block on the development, said the fire marshals, they're known as a waking watch, really didn't help much.
I told my husband to get out, and then I thought, what about everybody else here on the 12th floor, which is the top floor? They won't know. So I have every door on each floor shouting, everybody needs to come out. I really couldn't assess the extent of the problem. It was so chaotic. And you just see the fire and you really don't know what is going on. There were people with children, they were elderly. You know, this is a massive complex, 2,000 flats, people that you're having to deal with in a crisis.
You have a waking watch there. How useful was that?
We used to have a waking watch from around about April. Previously, our own security, keeping a check and going around, right? A system that had been okay from 2017 onwards. Tell you what waking watch is. They are marshals and they're supposed to have little horns. They march up and down the stairs and see if there's a fire, right? In this day of technology, it's a manual effort. They didn't help. There is smoke in the stairwell. They can't go any higher up. It didn't work. We knew that nobody's going to believe us. So within 24 hours, we wanted real live memories. Only one put the waking watch helped. Everybody else said, my friends were calling me. There were our neighbours shouting, get out, all of that.
And they are paying £47,000 a month between all of the residents for those fire marshals. Last night, as an all-party parliamentary group of Fire Safety and Leasehold Reform, Richard Mills, who is from London Fire Brigade, was asked why the marshals were needed. Now, he said that the fire brigade weren't insisting that blocks of flats with fire defects had to have these marshals.
The waking watch is something that when we speak to the owners or the responsible person, there are a number of measures that we can take or advise them on. It's for them to take the specialist advice, whether it is a alarm-based system, a waking watch-based system, but we would always try and emphasise the need for an alarm-based system. The waking watch is always temporary. It's not for us to, there's a misconception that we define and we ask for the waking watches.
Now, Melanie, the big question remains, when will this all be put right? Because there are still thousands of flats with dangerous cladding and other safety defects.
Yeah, exactly. Last night's meeting heard that solving this problem will take decades. It will be hugely expensive, but it must be publicly funded. Thousands of people are living in unsafe flats which are now worthless until they can be repaired. And it was a similar story in Victoria in Australia. But that former Premier, a man called Ted Baillieu, was at this meeting. And he said that repairs there are now underway and are all being funded by the government. Even so, it's not going to be quick.
It'll be contentious at time. It's going to require government involvement. Lawyers love it. Insurers love it. It's a litigator's delight. And it is a challenge for politicians because governments of all persuasions have been involved in what I would describe as the building of inappropriate buildings over the last 20 or 30 years. And forgive the language, we say for 20 or 30 years, our industry has been building crap. And that's a problem for all of us.
Now, he also said that the idea of giving low-cost loans to flat owners to replace the dangerous cladding, which the government here wants some people to take out, was roundly rejected in Australia.
The reality is not a single loan was undertaken or accepted by a homeowner. The local councils didn't want to administer them, and asking homeowners to wear a lien effectively on their titles for problems they didn't cause themselves was a completely unattractive proposition, regardless of what the interest rate was. And we recognised then that at that stage that further assistance was going to be needed.
So how much money have they made available there?
Well, in Victoria, it's only around £300 million so far, and that is a lot less than the £5 billion that the government set aside here. The buildings in Australia are all being risk rated, which is something they're doing in Scotland. The money for England and Wales is on a first come, first served basis. Ted Baillieu gave this warning last night.
If you don't fix, people will die. And if you don't fix, people will go broke. And if you don't fix, people will be in terrible trouble, and that makes it a broad public safety issue. You've got to do it. You've got to find, fix, fund, and it's got to be fair to all the homeowners who weren't responsible. Otherwise, you're going to have more fire. And we used to remind ourselves at every meeting, have we done enough today so that we will feel comfortable if there's a fire tonight? Because that's the reality. The fires continue and people will die if we don't fix the buildings now.
Mel, there's a new building safety bill coming though, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. And the government says that that bill will overhaul regulations and it will improve compliance. But it has been criticised because leaseholders will still have to pay for defects rather than the building owners. Now, Dame Judith Hackett, who reviewed building safety for the government, she was also at the meeting, and she did say that this new bill should make a real difference.
Mel, thanks very much indeed.